Oh, hey there, folks. This is your host of Service from Hell, Kate Gaffney, and I am popping on here quickly to let you know this is shockingly another two-parter. The problem when you interview your friends is that you can talk to them forever and ever and ever, and this week is no exception. This week's guest is writer, director, and improviser Gracie Simmonds, who joins us or graces us with her presence for 2 weeks because we could just talk and talk and talk. And Gracie moved to LA from Missouri, and I went to college in Missouri, and so we have a lot of reminiscing to do, even though we didn't know each other at that time. And so for this week and for next week, you will hear Gracie Simmonds as my guest. Thank you folks so much for listening. Let's get on with the show. And then can you say, I don't know what you just said.
Some P words or something.
Yes, P words, please.
Pizza, pineapple, Penelope, protruding.
It's so funny how many people say pizza, pineapple, Penelope because I always, anyway.
Well, I love pizza, so.
Me too.
Why not say it first?
Simmonds.
Simmonds.
Okay.
With a D.
With a D. Whenever you're ready, Annie, we're just trying to work over here. So look at her.
Hold for dog.
Hold for dog. She's flipping my fucking shirts. Ma'am. Oh, hi, you're listening to Service from Hell, a podcast featuring people that are currently in customer service positions or the lucky few that got out and all of the good, bad, and infinitely irritating things that go along with that work. I'm actor and writer Kate Gaffney, and am uniquely qualified to discuss this as I used to work at a very busy and very popular comedy club in Los Angeles, and at least one of you listening right now has probably grabbed me and told me you were ready to order when I was running around like a crazy person. So let's eat. I'd like to welcome our guest, comic, actor, nope. Why is this your intro? Hold on. Oh, I didn't delete that. God damn it. Sorry.
I am funny. I am
You
a
are
comic,
funny.
I guess. And I do acting. Sure. Do you want to add to my resume?
What is, I made you a podcast host.
Oh, that's lovely. You're just manifesting it for me.
I am. Oh, I've got too many things going on.
This is
Okay, go back, Kate. I'd like to welcome our guest, writer, director, and improviser Gracie Simmonds. Gracie moved to Los Angeles from Missouri, where she got her start in television by writing and performing on the Midwest's only late-night talk show, The Mystery Hour. She recently graduated from UCLA's director program and studied comedy at UCB and the Groundling School, where she currently still studies. When she's not performing, you can find her hanging out with her precious cat, Goose, and enjoying the only fast food in the world that matters, Taco Bell. Facts. They have gluten-free options. I love Taco Bell. Sponsor this podcast. That said, I better know Gracie from the small world that is entertainment in Los Angeles. So, Gracie, what got you into entertainment? Do you prefer writing or acting? Do you know what Ted Drewes is? Tell us.
That's 4 million questions all at once.
Answer them all, Gracie.
Right now, in order. Okay, so I was thinking about this week, like, why did I decide to be a performer? And I oddly remember, like, a lot of stuff from my childhood early days, but not so much from my adult life.
That's so relatable.
Is that a condition? Should I have that looked at?
Probably.
But I remember I was at the airport. I was like 2 years old, and there was a couple that were making out, and it was upsetting me, even as a toddler. And so I stood up on the chairs in the terminal and was like making fun of them, and people were laughing, and I was like, I love this. Even at like 2 years old, I was like, they're into me. They like that I'm like roasting these other humans.
How were you doing that?
I was just like, that's so, I mean, as you know, I had a toddler vocabulary, but I'd be like, that's so dumb. Stop it. Nobody wants to see you kissing.
I love it. At 2.
At 2.
That's impressive.
Yeah. And so I caught the bug, I guess.
Okay. And so then at what point did you do theater in high school? Like what was your, no.
That's musicals, and I absolutely cannot sing.
Okay.
So I was like, nah, no thanks. That's not for me. I would just like write my own stuff. Like I would write episodes of my favorite TV shows and then make my sisters perform.
That's awesome. Like what was the show at the time?
It's much older than I am, but The Facts of Life.
Oh, sure.
Like it started back up on like Nick at Night when I was in middle school, and I was absolutely obsessed with it. I still am. And I would even like dress up as the characters and go to school in character.
I'll die.
And I would be like, but Blair is my favorite, but I look more like Joe. So I'd be like,
you do?
You have to call me Joe Polnicek today. Like I would dress just like her, and I would not respond unless the teacher or whoever was calling me by my character's name.
Oh, you were a nightmare student.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. But yeah, that was my jam. That show was like
Everything.
Everything.
I did not know. I'm learning that in real time right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and do you know what Ted Drewes is? I threw that in there just in case. You don't? That's so specific to St. Louis. It's a custard.
No, but I told you.
I know Springfield. I know. That's why I asked. I was like, well, maybe it's in Springfield. Also, they should sponsor this podcast. It's a custard it'll ruin your life because it's the best, really basically ice cream in the world. But yeah, anyway.
No, Springfield has Andes.
Is it custard?
Yeah, that's like a big deal there.
I feel like custard is a Missouri thing, and there's various.
They're very proud of it.
Yeah, and they should be. It's
but
delicious.
if you ever have somebody from St. Louis on your podcast, the like St. Louis question you always ask is, "What high school did you go to?"
Yep, I've had it.
Like
that's their whole thing
for some reason.
I've had a couple of people where that they spoke to that, and also, what is it? What are the pizzas that they're debating between emos versus whatever?
Who cares? The other one doesn't matter because emos wins.
Listen, all of the food places we have mentioned so far, I am accepting donations for sponsoring this show. Okay.
I will just accept the food for free.
There you go. We have a split. Okay. So which do you prefer, writing, directing, or improvising?
Oh gosh. If I could make my living just doing improv, I would do it every moment.
Really?
Like if you were like, go live on this cruise ship out in the middle of nowhere and just perform for these same people for the rest of your life. Yeah.
Really?
That's my dream.
Improv over scripted?
Over everything.
Really?
Over literally everything.
When did you know it? Because improv is scary for most people. So when were you like, oh, improv over scripted theater?
My very first improv class.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I never even saw a show before I took a class.
Really?
Which I found out was weird. I didn't even think about it. It never occurred to me, like, go see a show and then just go take a class. It was like, take a class. And then they were like, oh, you should probably see some shows.
You were like, oh, okay.
Oh, that's an option. Yeah, I'll do that.
Wait, where was your first show that you saw?
In Springfield.
Oh, okay.
They had a theater. So I had like Googled like improv near me, and there was a theater there. And there was classes starting like that week. So I signed up for acting classes and improv classes in the exact same week.
Girl.
And started them, and I was like,
that's 100%. Too much.
No, it was like I was really stagnant in my life at that period of time. It was like after college, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm waiting for God to tell me. And then the second I started my class, it was like God was like, you're an idiot. I literally created you to be like funny and do acting and do all this silly, great stuff. So this is what you're supposed to be doing, girl. And I was like, okay.
I love that a lot. Yeah. Okay. And so how did you know to even Google improv? Because if you'd never seen a show, how did you know it was a thing?
Yeah, I guess that sounds so weird. So I read Tina Fey's book, Bossy Pants.
Well, there you go.
Because of course, like she's the queen. So let's support her. And she was talking about how like she started at Second City and then moved on to being the head writer of SNL and did improv. And I was like, what in the world is improv? And so then I Googled it and I was like, oh, this looks fun. Yeah, I want to do that. I like that trajectory she took. I'll go for it.
Sure.
I'll walk in Tina Fey shoes.
Listen, you're laughing, but like, why wouldn't we follow the blueprint of the people that have been successful ahead of us? Because there is no blueprint in entertainment. We need
that's
something.
So frustrating to me. Because I'm like, you could be a doctor. You know exactly what to do. You go to school 45 years, then you do a residency, and then you're a doctor.
I've said this 100 times, and there is a beginning, middle, end. Yeah. Whereas with entertainment, you could go to Tisch and have a great and be amazing and work in a restaurant the rest of your life. It's insane. We're insane people. Okay, and so you prefer improvising over everything. So why then take a directing course?
Because I had already done so much writing and I wanted to take more classes. This was during the pandemic, so it's like I wanted to take more classes, and then I was debating doing their writing program or their directing program, and then a friend of mine was like, you already know so much about writing, do directing and like see what that is. And so I was like, yeah, that's a really good point. Like I'll just do that, and I loved it so much.
Okay, you did. So what part of directing do you like? Like, what was it that you were like, oh, I love this I
think it's just you're taking someone's words, whether they're your own or the screenwriters, and you get to translate that onto film, but you have so much power in what that looks like. Like you're making every decision as to like, what does this set look like? What are these people wearing? You know, how are they delivering these performances? But I also like the idea of trusting good people to do their jobs.
Ooh, come on with that. Yeah. Yeah. So if you, in an ideal situation, would you direct something you were also starring in?
I don't know if I'd want to star in it, but I'd love to have like a bit part in it.
This is what I say to people all the time, because when people come for the people who are like when Ben Stiller was able to both star in and write and direct, people be like, oh, like that's the way to do it. I don't know how you divide your brain like that. Like, how do you say cut to a scene you're in?
Well, I mean, I think isn't like your AD is doing that. They're directing you, right?
They're supposed to, but in the outtakes that I've seen of him, he's like for Tropic Thunder, he would say cut in his own scenes.
Yeah, I think that's how I would probably do it too. I would
Really?
because it's just like with improv, you cut your scenes.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's like, and I think I have a good instinct for that because I would, in shows, I would be like the sound and lights person and you just like develop that muscle.
That's right.
So yeah, so it can be hard to sometimes just as a creative person watching other creative things and you're like, oh, this should have ended here. Or this should have, gone. Let us sit in this a little bit longer.
Yeah,
that's thing.
Yeah, I ran lights at an improv school that I went to, and I found that to be enormously helpful for knowing how to edit. And I credit myself with Key and Peele getting picked up because I ran lights for their show before it became what it was. So you're welcome, gentlemen. Obviously, you're welcome. Okay, so why Taco Bell over everything?
Oh my gosh, why not? Why does any other fast food chain exist?
Listen,
there's no point. It has everything.
No McDonald's coffee though.
I don't drink coffee.
I know because you're.
Don't come for me.
Yeah, people. I'm coming for you right now.
I thought a funny little bit. As a child, I tried coffee, and I hated it. Okay. And my grandparents were like, "Oh, this is for grown-ups. It's a grown-up drink." So in my mind, I thought, "Oh my gosh, when I turn 18, I'm going to love coffee." And so like literally the day I turned 18, I went and got a cup of coffee because I was like, "Today's the day.
This is it."
And it was horrific. And I've tried like frou-frou, that's what I call them, frou-frou drinks since then, like anything, but I don't like that coffee taste. Anything that's like it's mocha ice cream. No. I can't do it.
Well, it's kind of like wine, I guess. Like it's the effects, right? So it's like wine tastes like, not great too. And then eventually you're like, yeah, but 3 glasses in and I'm like, wine is good. Yeah.
I don't do any caffeine now. So
at all?
No.
Gracie.
So I couldn't do I would really be upset if I tried to do coffee and caffeine.
Gracie, you work full time. You perform. Yes. You are in school. How are you doing that?
So I learned recently, this was after I gave up caffeine, but I learned that it doesn't actually give you energy. It just blocks those receptors to your brain that tell you you're tired.
That's right.
Because my drug of choice for caffeine is, or used to be, I'm sober from caffeine now, the coconut berry Red Bulls.
Red Bulls
were
intense.
Phenomenal. Those taste so good because they don't have that gasoline Red Bull taste. No offense, Red Bull. No,
don't sponsor this podcast. I'm not into your.
But the coconut berry is
amazing.
Oh my gosh!
Wait, so how long did it take you to get rid of the headaches and stuff? If you detoxed out, because that's caffeine on another level.
Last year I started it, and it took for the first 3 days I had a headache the entire 3 days.
Yeah,
nothing took it away, and it was miserable. And then I did one of those things where I was like, but I'm fine now off of caffeine, so I can have a little. And then I got reeled back into my Red Bulls. And then I stopped again, and it was 2 weeks this time. And I was like...
2 weeks of a headache?
Of a headache, where I was like, Gracie, you're having withdrawal?
Yeah.
Which means you had an addiction.
Yeah. Oh boy, I know I'd have the same thing.
I can't touch it because I know I'll just go extreme with it.
Okay, well, what you were answering was why Taco Bell. So why Taco Bell?
Why Taco Bell? Because I'm a vegetarian.
I didn't know that.
Yes, and so
I'm learning so much about you.
You can literally, just anything that they have, just replace it with beans, and you're good to go. Like tacos, potatoes or beans, replace it.
And they'll do that there.
Oh yeah, I have the app. I'm an avid.
You're a big Taco Bell person.
Yeah. So you can customize literally anything.
How long have you been a vegetarian?
Since 2018.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And what, you didn't have goose yet. So what made you want to not eat meat anymore?
Watching documentaries.
Okay. We can't get into it because it's going to upset me too much. And
knowing the impact that it has on the environment.
Sure.
Really bothers me a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to be a vegetarian and then I gave up. So good for me. Well, it's also because it became cool and I didn't want to, I like bucking
You're like,
trends.
forget it. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be cool.
Truly, like in high school 100 years ago, I was like, yeah, I'm a vegetarian. And everyone was like, you weirdo, you're in the Midwest.
I bet you have like the rebel in you.
Yeah.
Like those 4 personality things. You're like the rebel. You're like, oh, if they're doing it, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, but I'm also a rules person. So when people break rules, I get
too.
mad.
I'm the rebel, but it's like I follow the rules. But I think the moment we can rebel, we're like, okay, I'm taking this on because this is a hill I could die on and it not really have consequences.
Oh, Gracie, we are super wired similarly. That's good. We're going to take over the world. Good for us. Well, okay, so get us up to today. So today you're doing post-production. You're also performing. You're also in school. So is your ultimate, what would be dream career scenario right now? I know you said boat improv, but like put a pin in that. I'm talking like dream.
Yeah.
What's your dream?
I think what I would really love is if people would come to me for jobs.
Hell yeah. I get that.
Like in my mind, that's like the be all and like the epitome of working is you're not hustling to get a job.
Yes.
They come to you and you're paid like exponentially well.
From your lips. Yes, girl. Yes.
That's like the dream.
So hanging up the grind and letting people come to you.
Yes.
Oh, yes. And would you keep writing scripts and stuff that you would eventually want to perform, or would you rather someone else write them?
I think either or. I think if when you're like writing is such a solitary thing, and sometimes it can get you can feel crazy in your own work because you're not seeing the forest for the trees or whatever that saying is.
That's right.
Okay. And you get such tunnel vision in it where you're like, is this even good anymore? But I think when you have a group of people you can like collaborate with, I never feel more creative than when I'm with like an improv troupe and we are, making stuff up and supporting each other like crazy. Then I can take that and go out and create more.
That's such a good point. Yeah, there's no high like that.
Yeah.
Especially when the scenes go well and you all gel on stage.
And there's no ego and everybody's like, I'm going to
support the scene.
The crazy thing you made up, we are taking it to the moon and back together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, it depends on what school you're in and what stage you're on and who you're with, but that is magic. Okay, folks. Well, we hope you enjoyed your apps. We're going to move on to the entrees after a quick break. We are back, and now it is time for the entrees. Okay, Gracie, you are a long-standing, long-time fan of the podcast, so you already know how this part works. Of the show. I keep saying of the podcast. You are a long-standing fan of the show. So, here come the questions. What was your first job ever? I'm not even going to give you the qualifiers because you already know. What was your first job?
We're the government.
There you go. Somebody's listening.
Well, that would be, I worked at a restaurant, a local restaurant in my hometown.
Are you comfortable saying the name? You don't have to. Are we about to drag them?
It's such a tiny town.
Oh, yeah, don't.
Yeah, so
Okay.
no.
Okay. What'd you do there?
I was like the salad and dessert person.
That sounds awful. What does that mean?
It means when the waiters or waitresses come back to the kitchen, they holler, I have a 6-top or whatever. And so then I make enough salad for 6 people.
Oh, because it was a salad came with every meal kind of thing.
Yes. And then whatever dessert they ordered, then I just prepped it. I didn't make those because it was like a family owned restaurant. So the wife always wanted to she made these like cheesecakes and bread pudding and stuff like that.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
We call that expo, right? You would be the expo person.
They call it the salad person.
Oh.
So that's what. So I was like, cool, I'll cut up lettuce for 12 hours on a Saturday. And yeah.
Would they tip you out, the waiters and waitresses?
No, never.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So you were making just minimum wage?
I was like back in the kitchen. Yeah, I just made minimum wage. And this was like in high school. So my last 2 classes every day, I left school early to go to work.
How is that possible?
I had Mondays off though. We were closed Sundays and Mondays. So yeah, Tuesday through Friday I was doing that. And then Saturdays I worked 10 to 10.
Girl.
Yeah.
Wait, there's no way you were in sports then.
I did play soccer.
How? I did soccer too. There was no way I would have had time to work.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if I played my senior year or not. I truly don't recall. But I did play in college, so surely I must have played.
You played soccer in college?
Yeah.
You were good. What was your position?
Forward.
And, you were fast.
And goalie. Yeah.
What a juxtaposition.
Well, because if you're a goalie, you're just defending. You're defending against the moves you know as a forward. and vice versa. As a forward, you're just getting past the moves you know you would do as a goalie.
Wow. That's I'm learning so much, Gracie. Okay. Wait, so somehow you managed to work 6 days a week and play soccer
5 days a week.
Wait, what were I thought you said you had
I had Sundays and Mondays.
Oh,
off.
Sundays and Mondays. Sorry. Got it. Okay. So why did the school say yes to you being let out? Or that feels insane to me.
There had to have been something where I like already had all my credits.
Oh.
And it
Big
was
flex,
just
Gracie.
like,
You're smart.
but I mean, then I also was in a class called character education, and I would sleep a lot in that class because
That's
mostly
ironic.
what we did was like, it was the kind of class where they did the whole, when it's prom time and they scare the tar out of all the kids to not drink. So they're like, let's dress up other students like they're dead and you're not allowed to speak to them for the day, or like, let's have an actual legitimate funeral.
We did that.
Or let's flip over all these cars.
We did
and
that
do a
too.
reenactment. Yeah.
Dare
when
was
we weren't
so
doing that-
serious. Yeah.
When we weren't doing that, I was sleeping, and I think the teacher was just like, yeah, she's got to go to work, so it's
That's
fine.
so insane.
Yeah.
Wait, real quick to focus on this, because a listener of the show, he and I had to perform this in high school where Mad came in and they like flipped over cars in the parking lot and we had to pretend like he was dead and he was
Yeah.
my boyfriend. Is that who came in and did the for that character class?
No, it was like just like character ed. That was like the program. Like you had to try out to get into it and stuff.
So it was a performance class. Like, did you got
Only
credit?
that part was performance. The rest of it was like, the only thing else I remember doing from it is like every month. This is so weird, but every month we would take like if it was October, we'd take like ghosts and pumpkins and we'd write the students' names on them and then like put them all over the hallway. So then every student could like have their on like a themed thing. But that's all. Besides that and the prom stuff, that's all I remember doing.
That's so interesting. So the class, what would it count as a credit towards? It was just
I
a
don't know.
class.
I don't know.
So the teacher would let you sleep. God bless. Okay. Was this private school or public?
No, girl.
I know. I figured I knew the answer. Okay.
Come on now.
But that's just
I grew up in a
surprising.
town of like 3,700.
Your town is smaller than my town.
Yeah. It was
Wow.
3,704 at the time. It's bigger now.
Wow.
But yeah.
Was there a Taco Bell in your town?
No.
What
I think
robbery?
that there is now, but there was
There wasn't at the time. Okay, so you're doing that in class. You're also working.
Mm-hmm.
So the restaurant job, how long did that last?
I think I was there like almost a year. It was like mostly my senior year. And then I left when I went to college. And I don't think I've ever worked in a restaurant since. And I'm grateful.
Why? Why are you grateful, Miss Gracie?
Because I got sexually harassed really hard.
Ooh, like how?
So hard somebody got fired.
Whoa. Care to
So-
elaborate?
Yeah, there was like the way the kitchen was set up was like my salad station was up against the wall, and then the grills or stove, whatever, the oven tops were behind me, and then the cooks were behind that, but they were facing me and my back was to them. So they would like to look at me and take like food bits and throw it at me, and whatever part of my body it hit, they would like give each other different amount of points.
Wow.
And then, I mean, it was just a lot of stuff like that. The climate of the time was telling me, like, this isn't okay, but I also don't have the vernacular to speak up against this. And then one day it just, like, really got to me. I can't remember. I mean, they were always, like, soliciting for something, but I was really upset by something one of them said. And then there was a waitress there who was, like, in her 40s, and she was, like, kind of a mom to me, I guess, and one other girl. And she saw I was upset and she was like, what's wrong? And then I told her what had happened. And then she reported it to like the management. So they pulled like all three of the guys in there. And I don't know why like one of them got fired and not all of them. But then also that guy was really mad at me for it because he was like, I thought we were friends. And I was like, I think your definition of friendship and my definition of friendship are wildly different. And I don't appreciate like, you know, they would do the whole like, oh, I got to brush up against you as I walk past, even though like you definitely don't, you know, just
God
lots
bless.
of inappropriate, gross things.
And the hard part with that is like, God bless the aunties at restaurants who have been there for a while and are willing to not tolerate the nonsense, because I think it's tough because some of the flirtation of working in restaurants can be super fun, and it
Right.
can be, you know, there's
But I was
a
also 17.
yeah,
is what we should
and
know.
yeah, and I think that there's that line of look, if all of your contemporaries were, around between 17 and 25, it's kind of like, yeah, there's that weird charge time and whatever. Still not justifying that behavior. But there is a fun flirtation at restaurants. But there is that line where it's like, no, now this has become a situation where I'm uncomfortable to come into my job, or I know that this is, and I've said this so many times, especially with the cooks, because the cooks, if you are a server, they can really decide whether or not you get tipped, in that they can really mess up a meal on purpose for you.
Yeah.
And I've had that happen many, many, many times where the cooks just didn't like me because I wasn't willing to
play their nasty
yeah.
game.
And then they would just purposefully mess up mess up orders. So I think there's that. It's such a tough line to walk, but God bless that auntie for sticking up for you. And
well, and especially like those guys were like in their 40s.
you're gross
And
extra gross. They knew better.
I know that there was like a lot of other yuckiness going on, but it's like, I think I've just been like, I'm over it. It's out of my memory. But I do remember the food bits thing, just because I was like, you guys aren't even trying to hide it at this point.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad that somebody got fired and whatever. Okay. So you did that. How many customer service jobs have you had total?
I had to make notes.
Good.
Okay. So I did that at the restaurant. I delivered phone books for a day. Does that count as customer service?
Why just a day?
Because it was the most horrific thing that no one should ever have to do.
Why?
I mean, I was like 18 and I got called for what they told me was an interview. So they're like, okay, come to this interview. But it turns out it was like an orientation to just watch a video, and then they would. So you're in a room with like these other people. You watch a video on the orientation of delivering phone books, like the etiquette of placing a phone book up against someone's door.
So it's not chuck it right at the door, I guess?
No.
Okay.
And then immediately they ushered you like through this warehouse outside, and they were like, okay, pull your car up. How many phone books do you want? Here's your route. And then they would like load up your car with phone books that aren't even bagged or anything. They're like all still in like this, all separately. I don't know. There was like a phone book, and then there was like a couple other books that went with it, and then bags they specifically wanted you to put it in. So it's like you had to then like open everything up, put them in a particular order in these bags, and then deliver it to your route. And my route was just like back roads in Oklahoma City. Oof. And I had like an 89 Corolla that was barely hanging on, and was absolutely terrified, driving up to these strange, like a single trailer sitting on 40 acres of land, not what me as a young woman wants to be doing at dusk.
I wouldn't want to do that now. Yeah. There's a lot of guns in that part of the country.
I was like, I did it for hours, and then I could not even like there were so many, books that they wanted me to deliver, and then I was like, I'm done, and I made $6 for the whole day.
For the day?
For the day.
Why just $6?
I think it was some kind of commission of like however many you deliver is what you make money on.
How many did you deliver? Do you remember?
No, I just remember being terrified.
No, that's no good. Okay, you did that, and then what was after that?
I worked at a plus size clothing store in the mall.
Now, listeners, you can't see Gracie. She is a tiny human, and I am not coming for our plus size individuals. I imagine it was probably not ideal to have you working there, because it could have seemed, I mean, truly, I think that if you were working in a plus size clothing store, you yourself should be plus. They can't, obviously they can't hire discriminatorily,
right? And
they can't only hire you if you're above a certain size, but I feel like that should be a prerequisite.
Yeah. Well, just to preface, I was like twice my size than I am now.
Still college. Small. Still small. Keep going.
And yes, that job was not my favorite.
Okay.
Ever. Man. Okay. I hope you're not afraid of the dark, because we're about to go in.
I'm ready. Let's go in there.
So it was at a mall, right? The worst thing. Okay. Well, let me start with like, yes, the customers did not love it that I wasn't reflecting the same size.
Sure.
Understandably now. Obviously, I'm like 18 years old, don't know, just needed a job and was hired. So I would have a lot of customers who would be, because you had to fold their clothes and stuff as you were checking them out. You had to fold their clothes, put them in the bag. And so they would get angry because you have to like hold them up against you to like fold them. And obviously I'm not.
Oh, so the clothes
are like reflecting a larger than me size, and perhaps then their projection of how they are feeling is now going to be on me.
So when you say hold it, you mean you would like hold the pants against your body to be able to
Yeah, that's
fold
how they
them.
wanted us to do it.
That
before we
seems
put
like
it in the
shitty.
bag.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
they would see that. Would they have a response audibly?
one lady got really mad. I remember one time, and she was like, because it was like her like underwear or something, and so she was like, "Oh my gosh, just wad them up and put them in the bag." And I was like,
bless her.
Sure,
Yeah,
whatever,
no
you
problem.
Want. And then one time, a customer, a lady sang this song. She was like, "One of these things is not like the other," like about me, but
I
like
got it.
I was checking her out, so it was like obvious. And then another one complained to my manager once, like right next, like I was checking somebody out, my manager was checking somebody out, and then the lady was like, "How can you let her work here and she's not even this size?"
Oh, they were like being so direct.
Oh, they were very adamant about it. Yeah. So then my manager was like, "Well, we can't discriminate against her because of her size." It'd be like saying we can't let a man work here. And we did have a guy who worked there too. It was, I didn't know it, but that mall was like the bad mall in Oklahoma City.
What does that mean?
Like the ghetto mall, I guess. It's like, no, you don't go to that mall to shop or do something or hang out. And also like there would be a guy who would call every now and then to enjoy himself over the phone.
No, Gracie.
While he asked you about the boots that were in stock.
Would you have, knowing that this guy was going to regularly call, would your
Yeah.
managers be like, you don't have to do this?
Yeah. So one of the managers I work with, she was the one who like warned me about it. And she was like she wanted to just take the phone calls
Bless her.
at any time. And mind you, she was like 21. So I'm like
her.
18, she's 21. We're both babies.
Young
you know?
babies, yeah.
But yeah, he'd always start the conversation the same way. And he'd be like, "Oh, I want to ask about like shoes in stock." And then he would be like, "Got any boots?" Like that was his like go-to line. And that's how you always knew it was him. And she would hang out. So yeah.
Okay, so how long did you last at so the mall was just because it was like it wasn't an upscale mall. So this
Yes,
was,
so-
did you feel unsafe?
Because there was a shooting right outside our store and I was working.
Oh boy. Okay. What happened?
So it was like closer to closing time, and then I heard these shots, but it's like when your brain tries to justify something that's out of context.
Yeah, like
'cause
fireworks.
in my mind, I'm like, I'm in a store. That's not a gun. Somebody dropped a couple of boxes.
Yep.
It really did sound like that, even though it was right outside of our store.
Now, when you say outside the store, this was not an outdoor mall. This was an indoor mall. So somebody walked into the indoor covered mall
Yeah.
and literally stood in front of your like brick and mortar.
Yeah, so we had like it was like a 2-level mall. So we were on the second level, and right outside of our store is like where like a balcony type thing is to overlook the bottom level.
Sure.
So it was like that open space. So I think like the person was down there, and then the security or police or whoever were up on our balcony, and then I've later found out it was like them shooting him because he had like a gun. The kid, it was a kid. He was like 15 and in a gang, I guess. It was some kind of gang initiation thing. And so then the police or security, whoever, shot this kid and killed him.
Jeez.
And it like messed me up in a way I was never prepared for.
Yeah.
Like you see violence and stuff in movies, and I watch a lot of SVU, so I'm like, I can handle this.
Me too.
I can totally handle it. And then turns out you cannot when it's real life. Like, because I saw like this kid and the blood and everything, and like could not handle the idea of like he was alive minutes ago and someone decided you're not going to be alive anymore, and he is gone from the face of the earth.
How did you see his body if he was not in front of your store, but the cops were? Like, did you go look over the balcony?
No. So, okay. Sorry. Let me preface this. So we locked our gate, and we were hiding in the back because at the time we have like no idea what's going on. We just think it's like a person with a gun in the store, and we're like trying to keep our customers safe, like all this stuff. Yeah. It was a lot for me as a little freshman in college.
That'd be a lot for me now.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah. So, and then afterwards it's like, so when they finally, let us know it was clear, they basically just like closed the mall after that, obviously, but it was like already kind of closing time. So anyway, everybody left, and we still had to like close out our registers and like take the money to the other end of the mall and deposit it. And so I didn't see the kid like in person because I was like, I don't want that etched in my memory.
Yeah, you don't forget that.
But where we went to deposit the money was like, there was a huge security booth there with just a bunch of screens, and they just had a still image of that kid lying there.
Oof.
that then I could not, every single day that I passed and I would look at that spot. It was like my body, my eyes could not look at where that kid was.
Sure.
To almost just be like, because I knew nothing, but I knew it was a human life, you know? So it's like almost just like, I need to remember, I'm going to witness that like you were here. I want to just honor the idea that like you were a person who was here. This is where your last moments were.
Oh, wow.
Now he could have been like a terrible human. I don't know. I don't know that. So I don't need to like judge off of that. But yeah, it just like affected me in a way I was never prepared for.
So how long did you end up staying at that job?
I think I started like in the fall and I left in the spring.
And when did the shooting happen?
I honestly don't remember. Actually, no, I sorry. I think I stayed there almost a year. Because
Wow.
yeah, the shooting happened in the summer. I remember because I was still living on campus at the time, and there was like nobody else on campus really. There was
Sure.
like me and like two other people. So I remember it was that, and I was just like, what do I like? My life was changed today, and everybody else is still going on like normal.
Wow.
And it was so weird to be like, I see the flow of humanity moving on, but I have stepped outside of it because of this moment. And it was just weird.
That's real.
Yeah.
So did you, so
I didn't bring it down. I told you.
No,
we're going to the dark.
listen, it's real. It's very real. And that would destroy me for working in retail
Yeah.
ever again. Was that your last retail job?
I think so.
Yeah, that would have been my last as
Yeah.
well. That's intense. Okay, so after you did that job,
Yeah.
how many other customer service jobs did you have beyond that?
So then after that, I want to say so then I started working on campus. So I was like a teacher's assistant. I did like 4 jobs. I worked 4 jobs at once. So I was a teacher's assistant. I was a resident assistant. I was a tutor, and I ran all the tech for our school for like their you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
I don't know what that means. Ran all the tech?
So we did like a satellite program basically. So like before Zoom, before like anything remote ever even existed on the face of the earth, our campus, which was a very tiny campus, did like night classes, and they would allow for like over the internet classes to other locations.
That used to be really frowned upon, and people had a lot of attitude about like University of Phoenix and like universities that were all online.
Yes.
And yet that here we are. But that's interesting. So you would be the person that was making
so
sure.
like the way they did it was like the teacher is in class with students in class, and then they have a television
That live
screen
streams
that
it.
live streams everything. Yeah, so like my job was to go in and set it all up before their classes started, and then troubleshoot any issues they had, and then make sure everything was closed down once they were done with class.
Gracie, that's too many jobs at a school. Because I also need to know, so you were the fun police because you were the RA.
Yeah, I was the RA.
Did you break up parties all the time?
No, because it was a Christian campus.
Oh.
So like they were going to party off campus.
Smart.
Thing.
Very
Yeah.
smart. So what was the weirdest thing that happened when you were RA?
It's Christian college, so they're like guy side and girl side. Okay, so like you couldn't go over to the side of the other gender after like after like 10 p.m. or something.
In the same dorm, or you mean in the same part of the camp, like half
Part
of
of
the
the
campus?
campus, yeah.
Good night.
So like the student center was in the middle of the dorms, and so one side was the girl side and one side was the guy's side.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it was like if anybody was like, oh, I think I saw a girl over the other side go in this other room, then like I would get one of my guy RA friends and be like, can we go check this? You know, because what it was is like the student center, you worked shifts at basically like in the evening, because when people left campus, if they weren't going to be back on campus by like 10 or whatever, they had to call the student center and be like, I'm at Piggly Wiggly, and I'll literally, I don't know why I said that.
That's a real real
I'm
business.
here with this person, this person, this person, and they'd be like, okay, and we'd write it on a chart, and so then we'd give that to like the security, which mind you, also the security was just another student who like dressed in a security uniform and drove a school van.
That's insane.
Yes, as I'm speaking all this out loud, I realize how insane this all is.
Yes.
So we all have to take turns on shifts. So everybody would be like, oh, I want Monday night, I want whatever. And I always chose Friday night because 1, I knew it would be open, and 2, I could stand staying up late on Friday night and sleeping in on Saturday, because I was like, I do not want to have to be here till 2 a.m., you know, on a Monday night and then whatever. Anyway, so if I was working, and then I would have like one of the guys go over and check a dorm with me or whatever. But then we got kind of scared, and like we kind of like knocked on somebody's bedroom door and then we're like, they're not answering. Let's just go. Like, we don't need to know if
how
they're
are you
like,
gonna
in there having sex. Like, if they
Yes.
are. Like, I don't want to be that person. And then
That's
like,
also a fully adult, like,
right, but you
staffed
sign,
person.
but it's like a Christian college, so like you sign the little like, these are the rules of the campus. We're gonna respect this.
I get
whatever.
that
So,
part. I get.
Yeah.
But having the enforcement of that,
be other like 18-year-olds.
that's insane to
Yeah.
me. Like, that's how orgies start, first of all.
Yeah.
And second of all, what? Like,
Yeah,
that's an
so-
adult's job.
Well, and I remember too, one time I was like, so the way the dorms at the time were set up, it was like 4 people were in a dorm, but every person had like their own bedroom, but you shared like a living room and a bathroom. And you could not have someone of the opposite sex in your bedroom area.
Sure.
They could be in your living room, but only at a certain time, only like open dorm hours. And I was visiting a friend in her dorm, and then the girl across from her door was closed, but then I heard her boyfriend in there singing, and I was like,
Come on,
is
man.
he in there with Chelsea? And she was like, I don't
don't
know.
know.
Yeah. And I was like, I knocked, and she was like, also like had been an RA previously. So then it was just weird because I was
Come
like,
on, man.
I was like, come on guys. Now, like I have to go write you up. And they were like, yeah, we know. Like everybody was like, because I think they knew like I was cool about it. Not like okay with you breaking the rules, but they were just like, yeah, like, I mean, I had to, one of my best friends who was on the soccer team with me, she had like stuffed her dorm room full of alcohol, and we like weren't allowed to have alcohol on campus, even though like she was of age. So then I had to like deal with that because I was her RA, but she was also she was like, yeah, you got to do what you got to do, and I was like, because everybody just knew like that's how I rolled. They were just like, she's not like being a jerk or being nasty or like trying to get people in trouble, like
You're not being the fun police. You're just
because
being the
it's
rule
just like,
enforcer.
yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
whatever, like she's got to do this.
Well, you're also subject to the same rules. So it's not
Yeah.
like you're having a guy in your room and making everybody else follow
Right.
the rules. It's like, no, you're following the same
Yeah.
rules. Yuck. What made you pick being an RA? Because you got free
Well, you
rent
get-
or free whatever?
Well, they say it's free room and board. It's
not.
It's not free at all. But I enjoyed like the people I worked with, but I mean, yeah, the room and board was a big factor because here I am working 4 jobs to
Girl, it's too
pay
much.
pay for this schooling. So yeah.
So you work, that gets you through college.
Yeah.
And then have you had any customer service jobs since
So
then?
then I worked in a preschool for a really long time.
Aw.
Really long time. And then also simultaneously at one point worked for an alarm company, fielding calls for alarms.
Gracie.
Which I do not recommend anybody in their right mind to. Anybody who is soft-hearted like I am,
Yeah, me
don't
too.
do that.
Why? Because you just hear
People
terrible
just
shit.
scream at you over the phone all the time.
No, I'm too vulnerable.
Yeah,
No.
because they're angry that their alarm is going off, and like the company I worked for, they didn't just field the calls for their own alarm systems. They did it for other alarm companies as well, who I guess didn't have call centers. And mind you, by call center, we had 3 of us doing this for 12-hour shifts.
Gracie, why
Yeah.
do you like these shifts that are punishing you? Like, there's a reason labor laws allow for 8 hours of work. That's punishment.
Well, at the time, so it was like 3 days on, 4 days off, 4 days on, 3 days off. But I'm also working at the preschool at the same time. Like any days I have off that are Monday through Friday, I needed the money. Like
Sure.
I needed money. I had
Necessity is a
nobody
mother of
else
invention.
to
Yeah.
like, rely on. And they're supposed to train you for a long time. And I think I had like 3 days maybe where I was like sitting with someone else fielding calls, and then they were like,
You got it.
You know what? Somebody called in today. Like you can do it. And it's like, this is why you have such huge turnover and burnout. And
They say
yeah,
the
and
same
it
is
was-
true for 911 operators.
Oh, it was miserable. Like, I think I did it for like 4 months, and then it got to the point where, so they'd constantly have a television on playing the news. So I'd come in at like 6 a.m. and I would hear like there was like a murder on the north side of town, sounds, and I was like, oh my gosh, did they have our alarm systems? And they probably triggered our alarms, and like maybe we didn't field the call correctly, and they died because of that. So my brain was like
Busy.
I can't do it, and yeah, but the way it worked was like, because you're fielding calls from other companies, they have other separate protocols. So you have to learn every single alarm system's
Gracie.
protocol of like, because most of them it's like, okay, the alarm rings through, so you call the first number they have on their list, right? And if that person answers, they can give you whatever code. And then you're like, okay, cool, I won't dispatch the police. But if you call and either they don't have the right code or they don't answer, you have to immediately call the police and then keep going down their list of people, which was so frustrating because 9 times out of 10, the next call that you made, the person was like, oh yeah, it's fine.
They're with
Cancel.
me.
Here's the code, whatever. And then you had to call the police back and be like, nah, cancel that, or whatever. But then a lot of people have a misconception that you can just remotely turn off their alarm.
Yeah, I thought you could.
There's none of these companies you could. So you'd have people just screaming at you about like, while you hear the alarm going off in the background for them, instead of just giving you their code word, they're screaming at you to turn off their alarm and like cussing you out. And there was a lot of people from New York, no offense, New York people, but they are harder than I am.
Yeah,
and
they're rude.
I'm a soft little gal.
Yeah.
So it was a lot for my tender little heart.
Like they would scream curse words at you and be like, you turn this off.
Yeah, and then like hang up. And so then I'm like, well, now I have to call the police. And then some of the alarm systems, you immediately have to call the police and then you have to go down the list.
No matter what.
Yeah. So then they'd be like mad too that like police came or whatever. But I'm like, does your company not explain to you this is like their protocol, and then also it's like you also have to make sure if they give you a code word that it's like the correct one, because they also have code words for like panic, for like I'm faking it and you need to dispatch the police. So
how on earth were you meant to know that?
Because there's like accounts that you pull up.
So if they say pineapple and that actually means they're fine, but if they say banana, there's a murderer behind them.
That happened to me once where the lady was like
banana
or whatever it was, and so I immediately had to dispatch, and I'm like having to do it like secretly just in case there's somebody listening or whatever to her. And then
I was like, pressure.
I was like, you're sure that it's that? Like you have to ask them or whatever.
You really mean Michelangelo?
Yeah, I was like, you really mean that Michelangelo? And she was like, oh no, I mean our other one. But then it's like, but then because the police are just, then I can't. And then we also took care of a lot of banks and ATMs. And there was one specific ATM that every single day the alarm would go off. So then you have to call this person and they tell you whether to disregard or dispatch out to this ATM. And then one time there was like a bank vault and I guess they were testing it. So if they test it, they're supposed to call you. And then there's like a big television screen that has all the calls that are coming in. And what happens is you don't choose whatever call comes to you. It just pops up on your screen from the television. So you can also see like which ones are waiting for you. And so there's a certain like color or something that lets you know it's a bank that's testing it. And they didn't do that. So I had to like dispatch out to
20
this bank
cops.
vault. Because it says it's the vault too that's going off and not just their office. So yeah, and so then of course they're like angry, but I'm like, sorry, like if the Joker was there robbing you would have been happy that I dispatched. So
wait, so I guess I don't understand why the other alarm companies wouldn't have their own dispatchers, because I feel like, what if it's a Friday night and it's a holiday and everything's happening at once?
Oh, I mean, that happens.
So what do? You just put them on hold, much like 911?
That's what it is. It's like they're sitting up on the board
and just waiting. Yeah. So someone could be actively being stabbed because their alarm is going off and y'all are like, give us a minute.
Because you can't pull down other calls. Like you have to like,
they just come in order.
They come in a certain order and you had to like basically finish that call. And sometimes then you had to like write notes. So that you hear that other calls are going off, but you're like, it's protocol, like this is serious business.
It's so insane.
And then there was like times where this was so weird, but it was like, I remember one day it snowed and we got just dozens and dozens of calls like right away at 6 a.m. And to be all these people who were like, oh, I just went out to look at the snow and I didn't turn my alarm off. Where I was like, okay, cool, because maybe the next caller is being
dead.
Bludgeoned, but cool, you just wanted to check out some flakes. Like, hope you enjoyed that.
Hope it snowed on your little head.
You really couldn't turn your alarm off before you ran out barefoot into the snow. Oh, that's how I picture it. I picture them all like out there barefoot in their nightgowns.
Doing snow angels.
In the snow. I'm like, come on.
You're like,
people's lives are literally at stake.
I guess because for myself, until this very moment, I've been in houses, my house didn't have this, but I've been in many houses with alarm systems.
Yeah.
And there have been a couple that have gone off, like especially when I house sit or whatever. Yeah. And I never did the math of you are actually pulling a resource that could be responding to a real call. Yeah. I just assumed, there's probably 5 people that have this, alarm system in their house. Yeah. What are the odds? But especially in a city like LA where the numbers are massive, I'm curious. So was there a situation where you got a call and you could tell the person was absolutely in the middle of some real panic and terror.
I'm trying to think if that ever happened or not. Like, there was one where it was like we had notes on this person's account where it was like his ex-wife was
Not well.
an unwell woman and would like harass him and break into his home a lot.
Woo-hoo.
And so there was like a specific protocol for him for
Wow.
his account, even though it was like not what the company's thing was, but it was like, I guess because everybody knew and police were involved. So I do remember his popping up a lot. And there was like one time where it was actually her doing something and not just his like motion detectors or whatever going off. And then there was like another one where the person was like a shut-in and I think they were like hurting themselves, but somehow they had the wherewithal to like set off their alarm, I guess.
To alert that they had hurt themselves.
Yeah. Like, and
Wow.
I think they had like purposely harmed themselves at this point. So then it was like stuff like that where it was just like, okay, I'm working 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. doing this. Now I need to just like go home and go to bed because I have to wake up at 6. I have to not even wake up, but be here at 6 a.m. to do this again. And it just...
Emotionally, I just don't think I could sign up for that kind of roller coaster.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I would be burnt out so
Yeah.
fast.
Well, of course, like the way they sell it to you is not even that at all. Because it's they shouldn't do 12-hour shifts.
That's insane.
I mean, it shouldn't even be 8 hours.
No.
But I don't think the working day should be 8 hours to begin with. But
Don't get me started.
Cool 6.
Yeah.
a heavy 6 is good for me. But yeah, like, and I remember too, there like people would quit a lot, So there was one guy, he would just work constantly. And so what they would do too is they were like, if you were going to just keep picking up shifts, there was like a hotel nearby and they would just like buy you a hotel room so you could go over there and sleep for a while and then come in or if the weather was going to be inclement, like if it was snowing or whatever, they'd be like, oh, well, we got you a hotel room right here next door. So you have to stay here. But it was like, okay, well, I don't have like,
I didn't bring my clothes.
yeah. And this $9.36 an hour I'm making is not
I'm not going to justify this.
Not worth it.
Was there mental health support where they would say,
No.
hey, you're going to see these calls, you're going to hear
100% no.
something? So how did you handle that emotionally?
I think too, it's like bonding with your coworkers.
Oh, you're in the shit
You're
together.
like trauma bonding
Yes.
together in a way that you didn't know was possible. So it's like, and two of the ladies I worked with were like wonderful, like very fun to be with. One girl had done dispatch. She actually like was from California and she had done dispatch out here. And then, but there was another girl too who like was not a great coworker and just is one of those people that in her life she probably didn't have power anywhere else. So this was her place to like
Exercise.
really exercise her power. And really she did it every chance she got over nothing.
I can't stand those kind of
people.
I hate those kind of people.
That was like the worst person ever to work with. But everybody else, I think it's like we all knew like we're in this terrible situation together, but at the same time you don't. But a lot of people too, it's like they've got kids, so they're like, this is what I have to do to put food on the table or, get my daughter her prom dress, just
This is what I'm about to do.
yeah.
I think these jobs aren't discussed enough and they really fascinate me because I think of the emotional toll because there is a cortisol release that happens when you're hearing someone panicked on the other line, whether it's a friend, family member, like even if it's not your job, if you get a panicked phone call, there's no way that your blood pressure doesn't rise
Right.
short of you being
can't
associated.
regulate
You
that,
can't
yeah.
because you're going to hear it and you're like, oh, I'm going to match this.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, well, in these jobs, which I'm just realizing right now would be so hard, is I'm up here, click. I'm up here, I'm up here, click. That up and down.
Yeah.
You must have gone home and just barely been even able to make it to your bed before you'd fall asleep. Like I
Yeah.
can't, but also you're riding on the vibration of the chaos.
Right.
So there's a come down from that. Girl.
Yeah. It was a lot of anxiety that just, the vibration just rung in there hard. And I didn't know that at the time that that's what was happening to me or that my nervous system was not regulating itself and it was due to this kind of thing. And it was just...
What got you attracted to that job? Like, did you just saw an ad?
No, a friend of mine, her boyfriend worked there and she was like, oh yeah,
We're looking for recruits.
they pay more than like what we were making at the preschool and you got overtime if you did like the 4 days, like the weeks that you had 4 days on, that was overtime. So that, sounded appealing. And they, of course, made it sound like it's so easy. You just do these calls and you do whatever and blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, oh, but what they should preface is like, if you're a Pisces, like, don't do that.
That's me. That's me. Couldn't do it. So financially you had to have simultaneously the alarm company job and the preschool job.
Yeah.
Because you just needed it that much.
Right.
So how were you able to have the energy to deal with little rugrats all day and then go hear about people dying on the phone? I don't understand. It's too much. Like I cannot. Okay, folks, that's going to do it for us here at Service from Hell for part 1 with writer, director, and improviser Gracie Simmonds. Join us next week where she gets into even more juicy stories of all of the ways she sold her body to be able to pay for art. Yeah, I'm not joking. Thank you folks so much for listening. Good night.